to have an emergency press briefing to just attend to the many issues that have risen. There will be a series of activities that will line up, but tonight we thought we could just address you to one specific matter, the occurrence in Parliament today. You are aware that the second Deputy Speaker in the National Assembly made some announcement. This is Mr. Moses F. Moyo, Luangene MP, who also doubles as Deputy Speaker, where he announced that 9 seats have been declared vacant. I have Honorable George Sanga, who's our legal chairperson in the Patriotic Front. I have our Secretary General, Honorable Raphael Nakacinda, and I have member of the Central Committee, Honorable Member of Central Committee Sylvia Chalikos, and myself, Emmanuel Mwamba, as chairperson for information and publicity to address you. We are aware of the press conference that was held by some illegal group by Robert Chawinga, who's been suspended and expelled twice. Ignore that. We will address ourselves to the issues that occurred in Parliament because we think that they are so serious that we should come into your homes tonight and address the nation. Honorable George Sanga, just brief the country, I think what occurred today in Parliament. There was a ruling on Friday last week. I think papers were filed in court last week. Then today we were surprised to see the Deputy Speaker in the National Assembly make some pronouncements. Please pick it up from there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, and welcome to the press. Welcome by extension to everybody who's listening to this live podcast. Like has been mentioned, there was a pronouncement today on the floor of the House, and this pronouncement was triggered by the point of order that was raised by the Minister of Home Affairs last week on Friday. That point of order was raised after the Constitutional Court on Thursday delivered a ruling in a matter where the 9 members of Parliament of the Patriotic Front who had purportedly been expelled had challenged the decision to expel them before the Constitutional Court. The Constitution made a pronouncement on Thursday where they said that because the matter did not raise constitutional matters, the Republican Constitution, they were not seized with jurisdiction to hear that matter. In that ruling, they guided the parties and said in furtherance of intra-party democracy, the Patriotic Front must endeavor to resolve their matters internally going forward. The litigants who were before the courts of law and the party who had been sued, in that case, Honorable Miles Sampa, engaged into some deliberations that resulted in Mr. Sampa communicating a position to National Assembly, saying that he had rescinded his decision or he had reversed his decision to expel the 9 members of Parliament. In fact, that communication arrived at Parliament before 7:30 on Friday, so that when the House was sitting, and we start sitting at 9 hours on Friday, the point of order that was raised procedurally had been overtaken by the fact that National Assembly had received communication. The ruling was reserved by the Speaker on the point of order by Honorable Mwitwa. When Parliament resumed sitting today, after the long weekend, there was an order paper that was circulated. On that order paper, there was no indication whether the ruling on that point of order was going to be rendered today. During the process of the proceedings of Parliament, the Deputy Speaker, second Deputy Speaker, rose without an agenda item on the order paper to deliver a ruling in which he purported that the expulsions that had been pronounced by Mr. Sampa against the 9 remained valid, and on that account he ordered that they should vacate their seats and that their constituency offices become vacant. He cited Article 75 of the Constitution. He also deliberated that he had received communication from Mr. Sampa rescinding or reversing the decisions to expel the 9 members of Parliament. but he argued that in accordance with the tradition of National Assembly, I don't know what tradition the Speaker was talking about, because this Speaker only entered into the seat of the Speaker at the beginning of this Parliament in 2021. But he cited some tradition that he says, insofar as his office is concerned, communication from a political party is made through the Office of Secretary General. And therefore, he decided to comply with the communication which he received from Mr. Nguna and dispensed with the communication that was received from Honorable Mao Sampa in stating the position of these expelled members of parliament whose expulsion was reversed. Now, there was one thing that the Speaker also ignored. On Thursday, when the Court guided and said it was not seized with jurisdiction to hear the matter, the affected members of parliament, in compliance with the law, filed fresh proceedings before the court of law. Now, as the nation is aware, when the court is seized with a matter involving the incumbency of members of parliament, National Assembly, by practice and by law, does not enter into that fray. You always allow the courts to finish deliberations of the matters before it can be pronounced. In fact, that position was communicated to National Assembly and acknowledged that there are fresh proceedings where the expulsion was still being challenged by the affected members of parliament. The Speaker of the National Assembly today was reminded that actually this communication is sitting in his office or in the office of a clerk, so that Parliament has been formally notified of these proceedings. In making this controversial ruling, the Speaker again ignored the fact that there are proceedings before the court and his office cannot deal with the matter involving those members of Parliament, completely ignoring it. The Speaker also ignored a cherished principle that was pronounced even by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Madam Nelly Muti, on the occasion of when Honorable Stotela, on the 23rd of November 2023, raised a point on the floor of the House, saying that the Patriotic Front had at that time expelled Honorable Mao Sampa, and that he was wondering why Mao Sampa was sitting in his seat of Member of Parliament when actually he had been expelled. The Speaker of the National Assembly, citing existing precedents, made a pronouncement that she could not deal with the matter involving Honorable Mao Sampa because the matter was before the courts of law, i.e., the Speaker cannot deliberate on any matter if they've got notification that the matter is before the courts of law. Unfortunately, today, the Speaker who was making a pronouncement did not find it fit to be constrained by the fact that there are court proceedings at the instigation of these 9 members of Parliament. And the other thing that was also ignored is the fact that under the current constitutional dispensation, under Article 75, that the Speaker was citing, the Speaker of National Assembly has no mandate under the Constitution to declare a seat for a member of Parliament vacant. Because in the constitutional setting that we have in this country, it's only the Constitutional Court which has a final jurisdiction after hearing the matter on its merits to pronounce that the expulsion of a member of Parliament was valid or invalid. And if it was valid, the consequences will follow. The Speaker only received notification from court once the matter is completed. And the responsibility of the Speaker after that is to notify the ECZ of the existence of the vacancy. This was pronounced in the case of Kambwili versus the Attorney General, when Dr. Patrick Matibini was Speaker, when he purported to have expelled Honorable Kambwili from Parliament. Mr. Kambwili challenged that matter. It was before the courts of law, and the Constitutional Court gave guidance on the role of the Speaker under Constitutional Amendment Act number 2 of 2016, where they said the responsibility of the Speaker in the current constitutional setting is merely that of a referee. You are only an arbiter. So what we have done as the Patriotic Front, the affected members of the party, and Secretary General, I think, is going to expand on that position, is that we have sought legal counsel and we are taking yet another legal challenge of this matter before the courts of law. Now, it pains me to sit here and begin to suggest that we're actually going to court. Why? Because it is now beginning to become very clear that these institutions of governance in this country have been so polarized by the Republican president and by extension by the UPND as a party in government. I think the public is aware of the recent developments before the courts of law, where clear-cut cases where they should have dealt with the matters on the merits have been thrown away on some kind of technicality, one type of technicality or another. This constitution, under which we pride ourselves as a constitutional democracy, has a specific provision that demands that at all times the court must not be bogged down by technicalities, but must ensure that it addresses itself to merits of the case that comes before it, as well as ensure that justice is rendered in accordance with the expectations of the Constitution. So even as we return back to our lawyers with instructions that we go back to court, we have a painful presumption that this time we are going to find courts that are prepared to preserve and underscore or protect the Constitution of this republic. The only thing that keeps this country intact together is the Constitution. The Constitution has provisions that ensures that every Zambian has a stake in the governance of the nation. It does not allow rule by the might, as we are seeing currently. I had made an earlier call, and I can only repeat it here. I would like to call on Zambians from all walks of life to begin to take a keen interest in how the UPND is governing this nation.